Hey there, this is Sim. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Let's learn with Sim. Today I'll be reviewing my most recent read, and that is Banara by Anandani Lakantan. So let's start with the background of the author. The author Anandani Lakantan was born in Kerala and he belonged from a very conservative family. He grew up listening to stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and the Indian epics, the Indian mythology. His house was surrounded by a lot of temples, so there were stories on every other corner. And he, as a child, must have been very excited, very curious about all of these things, as there are so many characters, so many twists and turns, so many themes to explore. And in his journey, his father has been very supportive. He used to work in the corporate field, but now is working as a full time writer and stays in Kerala most of his time and lives a very private life. But for work, of course, he keeps traveling to the main cities. Now, let's talk about his literary career, his literary life. So, we see that he published his first work in the year 2012, and it was titled Asura, Tale of the Vanquish, and it was from the perspective of Ravana. So, it is very amazing, right? Because we have heard stories from the perspective of Rama, from the perspective of other characters, but here we have a story from the perspective of Ravana, who is considered to be a black character. But here the writer thinks that he is a grey character. So most of his writings are similar. He picks up all the considered black characters and fits them into the category of grey characters. So now let's talk about his career. And I'm totally amazed by how talented he is and how much potential is this man carrying. He not only is a writer but also a cartoonist, also a script writer. He has written many scripts for TV serials like um, Siya Ke Ram, Ashoka, Mahabali, and many more. He has also uh, written books, fiction and non-fiction, for of course us adults, from the perspective of the characters considered grey and black. He has also written literature for kids, for children, and he writes columns for The Hindu, Indian Express Pioneers, Washington Post, and many more. And not only that, he also writes in Malayalam, and his work is regularly published in the Malayalam magazines. I mean, he's so talented. I am so amazed by how skilled he is. His writings inspire a lot of artists belonging from the art field, of course, and also from the film industries. People like the filmmakers, directors, producers, also the actors are very much inspired, and they love his work, and it is clearly stated in their statements. Similarly, we have a person, S.S. Rajamouli. Yes, the filmmaker, the one who made Bahubali, he was so inspired by his work Asura that he asked Ananda Neelakantan to write the prequels for his movie Bahubali. So Ananda Neelakantan has written the prequels of his characters, a few of his characters from the movie Bahubali. He not only asked him to do so, but also gave him the freedom, the liberty to mold the character's background in his own unique style, in his own unique way of portraying things. And that is so amazing. So amazing. I mean, I'm totally out of words to explain such talent. And then also, another surprising thing about him is that his writings are so good that they have been translated in more than 9 languages. So, few of the many awards that he has received in his literary career are Kalinga International Literary Award, Gujarat Literature Festival, Raymond Popular Award, and LitOfest Literature Legend Award. So let's talk about Vanara. It was published in the year 2018 by Penguin Random House. It is a story that revolves around the life of Bali, his brother Sugriva, and their love interest Tara. Now, this story is not only a love story, but it also revolves around the power struggle of these two brothers, also the power struggle between the Asura, the Devas, and someone who was in between, the Vanaras, the Vananaras, the people of the forests, the people who did not want to stay as slaves, people who wanted their freedom, people who wanted to live lives on their own terms, people who did not want to stay slaves but were forced to, or it so happened that they fell in such circumstances that they had to follow the same fate that they had been following for years. And then we have these two brothers trying to break free, trying to get out of this web, trying to get out of this foolishness that is going around, trying to challenge the thought of the society, trying to change the mentality, trying to change the perspective of these people that is engraved deep within. So, now let's talk about my personal view on this piece of writing. And I must say that the language is very easy to understand. The writing style is very simple, and I would highly recommend it to someone who has just started reading, someone who is trying to build a reading habit. The second best thing about this piece of writing is that it has multiple stories. It has given value to all the different versions that are available around the world. As we know that this is an reimagining of the characters from Ramayana, and we are all aware of the basic story, what happens in Ramayana, and we know how things have changed, how some people consider it to be myth, some people consider it to be just stories, and some people consider it to be our history. But that being said, I must also say that these things were orally translated, and of course, we know that we lose a lot of things in oral translations. A lot of thing is manipulated. So we definitely cannot rely on just one version. Hence, I'm very glad that he has given importance to other versions as well. And he kind of opens the door to different perspectives. And that is what I love about this writer. One thing that we really don't know is about the origin of Bali, about the birth of Bali and Sugriva. There are stories, different stories, saying different things about them. And I love how the writer has just not justified one. Let the reader decide for themselves, or if I say it in other words, has just given us two different perspectives, and now it totally depends on the writer if they want to agree with one and disagree with the other, or they just want to believe in both of it and just accept it as it is. So I'm very aware that Ramayana has different versions, and people follow different versions in different parts of India. And similarly, I found out something very amazing, and that is in this book, Lakshmana not only chops off Surpnakha's nose, but also her ears and her breasts. Uh, and that was a form of shaming her for her deeds. Now, this thing is, according to my research, in the versions of the Ramayana that is followed in South. Yes, this is how the writer introduces us to different versions of the same story, different stories that have a same ending. One very prominent theme that is present in this book is the power struggle. And the power struggle is not only of Bali and Sugriva wanting Tara because they are in love with her, but also the power struggle of physical, mental, political, and uh, the status in all aspects. So, this shows also the power struggle of the Asuras, Devas, and the people who were in between, the Vananaras, the Vanaras. The struggle is all about power and hierarchy. And that being said, I must appreciate how smoothly Ananda Neelakantan has introduced us to the idea of anarcho communism, because the idea seems so beautiful, so beautiful. The free will, the advances to not work, the advances to just do whatever you feel like doing, the advances of anyone not having power, the world, a world where there is no hierarchy, everyone is treated equal, everyone has equal responsibilities, everyone has equal liberty, equal freedom, and everything in between is equal. But also, it shows that how that idea is beautiful in the thoughts and not actually practical. How, whenever we think of ourselves to not build the hierarchy system, but we tend to build it. It's kind of, it feels like it's our default setting. Even if we don't want to have the hierarchy, we tend to give the power to someone else. We sometimes unconsciously tend to give the power to someone else. Like, for example, if there is a group of community where they are following the rule where no one is superior, where no one is oppressed, everyone is equal. But when it comes to fighting with someone else from a different community, someone else who, or some other state or some other power, so even if people in their own community are very equal, they need someone who would represent them, someone who is strong from the rest of the lot, someone who would represent the community to others. Sometimes, maybe to build friendship bonds with other communities, and sometimes to protect themselves from enemies. They definitely need someone. And as soon as they give the power to someone who is stronger, they will give birth to power struggle. As now that person is the commander, the leader, he will have the sense of pride, and of course, the other people would feel that they are less as compared to the leader. And as their default setting, as even if they are not wanting to, even if they are not conscious, unconsciously they are going to give him some uh, kind of respect that is not given to other people. They will be treating him differently, so that would give rise to the hierarchy system again. And that is exactly what is spontaneous hierarchy. There was no hierarchy in between, everything was equal. As soon as there was attack from a different group of people, or as soon as there was a need to represent the community, they needed someone. And this gave birth to the spontaneous hierarchy. And if you would want me to put all of it in one box or give it a term, then I would definitely relate it to the theory of oligarchy. And it is amazing how this also reflects on our own lives. How we people too are struggling with the same. There is the same struggle for power, and there is hierarchy, and the people with power are winning, and power comes in all forms. So, this is a microcosm, definitely a microcosm. No matter how much we dream of having equality and having uh, a place where everyone is treated equal, that is not very possible. It's a beautiful idea but not very practical. I feel like this piece of writing has just one loophole, and this is something that I personally feel. And it has to be that there were some instances where the story could not build up the tension, the curiosity could not be carried out for a very long time. I mean, there were instances in the story where the curiosity was built, the tension was built, and it was carried on, and we were, as readers, we were on the edge. But there were also some instances where um, there was this curiosity building up, there was this tension building up, and in the very next page we had the secret unveiled. So there were some instances as such, and I did not really enjoyed it, that did not please me as much. Other than that, I would definitely recommend this book. So if you ask me what type of people should read this book, then I would highly recommend it to three type of people. Number one, that fall in the category of the ones who have just started reading, ones who are trying to build a reading habit. You people are going to enjoy it, even if not from the mythological aspect. It would be fun. It would be a fun read, and also the language and the writing style is very easy and simple to understand. So definitely, you should definitely go for it. The second type of people would be the ones who are interested in mythology, our Indian history, our Indian epics, and people who are wanting to go deep in understanding the characters and people's perspective. And the third type of people who are very open to new learnings, people who are open to new perspectives, people who are wanting to learn and unlearn, people who are wanting to challenge their own thoughts, people who want to not be rigid. So, yes, definitely you should go for it. So, that's all for this video. See you all in the next one. Till then, keep supporting, keep loving. Signing off. Let's learn with Sim.